Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day and greetings from Masa Avenue International College. Today we meet again in Masa Avenue International College Open Day. I am Nurul Ashik Zamrus, lecturer for Information Technology Program, and we bring to you another interesting sharing session with our special guest speaker here, Miss Izzati Shaharudin. How are you, Izzati? And also psychology officer from UiTM. How are you, Izzati? Share mine. Okay, great. Alhamdulillah. How are you today? Alhamdulillah also. And another speaker is Madam Kamariah binti Derasol, psychology officer from UPM. How are you, Madam K? The show home, right?
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. I'm great. I'm so glad to be here.
So, thank you for your time to be with us today. We really appreciate it. In this about in our session, we will focus on discussion about health sustainability, how to overcome an anxiety for a better life in the context of students towards an academic excellence. Okay, so before we start our session, I would like to share a bit of our speaker background. So the first one, Miss Izzati. So she's graduated from International Islamic University Malaysia with Bachelor of Human Science Psychology with a first class honor, inshallah. And then certified and trained with akreditasi indikator perwatakan unggul by Jabatan Perkhidmatan Awam, certified in introductory skill training acceptance and commitment therapy by Ripple Community and holding a sijil pentaudiahan jurulatih akrab also from Jabatan Perkhidmatan Awam. So this is the background about Miss Izzati. And then for Madam Kamariah, so she's graduated from UPM with a master in guidance and counseling, and her work experience served college professional Mara for 8 years, such a long time, and then UKL 1.5 years, and then in 1997 until now, she's currently served in the UPM. So she's certified and trained in Neuro-linguistic program, certified virtual learning cluster, certified lab profile, and also certification in trauma using. So this is such a great such a great achievement that we have very great speaker for our today talk. So let's start with our session today. The first question, as we want to talk about the anxiety. So the poor mental health of university students is becoming a serious issue, right? Anxiety and one key in Malaysia, especially anxiety disorder. So in the study among Malaysian university students, the prevalence of anxiety was much higher. 30.5% were experiencing mild, 31.1% moderate, and 26.1% severe anxiety based on the research by Safi and his friends in 2020. So this is much very high percentage in anxiety order. So can you give the correct understanding between the anxiety and fear so that all of us will be more clear regarding this issue? So I pass with the anxiety first and then continue with the Madam K.
Alright, thank you so much, Ms. Ashiki. Hello everyone here. I was informed that our session today will be in hybrid mode, where some are here in the venue, some are joining through live streams. So regardless where you are, I'm very grateful, and I would like to extend my gratitude for your willingness and effort to dedicate your precious time to the weekend. Guys, this is Sunday, yeah? Probably you are going to lie on the bed, but you guys, instead of lying on the bed, you are here, and even from home, you guys joining the session. So I would like to extend my gratitude for your willingness. I hope today's session is more like a chill sharing session. So hopefully my little knowledge and sharing will give like some insight or encouragement to works and progress with changes. And of course, we are striving for better academically excellent outcomes. So back to the question again. It is undeniably correct that mental health issues, especially in Malaysia, have becoming a major concern among us. And in fact, based on the study, the recent study, it was found that Malaysia is one of leading Asia Pacific region countries among higher educational institutions having high mental health issues. And like Ms. Ashwin said, the top concern is on anxiety, within depression, stress, and suicidal ideation. So these kind of statistics data and finding quite worrying and concerning. And I think starting the discussion today by properly understand the terms or the meaning between fear and anxiety can be a good start. Because some might think, okay, I have like anxious feeling or anxiety, they simply use the word interchangeably, probably because they feel like, okay, these two terms are same, but actually it's not same. Looks like similar, but it's actually not the same. So to be able to understand what anxiety actually is, I think let's indulge into the terms of fear first. So fear is kind of experience we as a human undergo. Uh, it's like it's unpleasant, and once we experience it, it's quite aggressive. This is because when we understand the physiological natures of fear itself, it involves the activation of parasympathetic nervous system in the brain. So once we react with stimulus, the stress around us, whatever fear, whatever threat around us, it gives us signal to the brain, but something is not right happening. So it activates all the sympathetic nervous system in our body. So we start, our heartbeat start raising, increasingly, our hand is shaking, brightness of the mouth, heart palpitation, some more butterfly in stomach. This is typical when the student need to present and try to feel like there was butterfly in my stomach. Yeah, that kind of physiological response in nature of fear because of feeling of anxious, it triggers that kind of energy to react to the instant, immediate threat. I would say when we talk about fear, fear refers to immediate threat or danger in front of us. Okay. Meanwhile, anxiety on the other hand, when we talk about fear, it's more like alarm system in our body. The alarm sending information to the brain. Okay, something is not happening in front of us, so we need to take action. It's a fight or flight response. But when we talk about anxiety, it's referred to something that more like not yet happened. It's more associated with future. The threat, the danger is not in front of us, but we detect possible threats or possible dangers. This is where we call it as a radar. Instead of alarm system, it works like a radar system, whether it's going to send a correct alarm or false alarm. So when we talk about these two differences, fear refers to immediate danger. So I give you an example, you are driving the car. Suddenly we find that there's a falling tree in front of us. Right? It was raining at the time. So to the state that we find, oh, there's a running tree in front of us, in front of me. If I keep driving, for sure I'm going to accident now. For sure, this is my last day, for example, right? So because of that threat, immediate threat, we respond to that. Okay, we try to escape and avoid to save ourselves, fight or flight response. But when we talk about anxiety, the thing is not yet there. For example, tomorrow we're going to have exam. So the student probably think of, oh, I don't really well prepared for tomorrow exam. What if these kind of thoughts? What if suddenly I fainted in the class? Or what if suddenly whatever I read just now on the last night, it's going back. So all these thoughts blocking you from any from the immediate threat. Okay, and actually anxiety is somehow psychologists even found that a moderate amount is very good in which in preparing ourselves to face possible threat or danger. So, for example, if we anxious and worried about upcoming exam, okay, if I'm not prepared, I definitely gonna retake this paper. So because of that part, we are more aware and prepared to face that kind of situation, to prevent that particular things from happening. So that's the function of life. But when it is in excessive amount, it persists for over 6 months with the occurrence of 3 symptoms and more. This is where the anxiety becomes a problem. We know it as disorder. It becomes abnormality. It disrupts one life functioning. For example, someone having fear meeting up with people. So, because of that excessive worry, probably this person think whenever I meet people, he or she definitely have a very bad intention on me. He or she gonna kill me. So, which restrain that person from doing his normal life functioning. So instead of going to work, because of fear of meeting up with people, he end up losing the job because he's not able to attend the job. So this is where anxiety becomes a problem. And in fact, the term anxiety actually frequently used in psychiatric diagnosis. It's referred to the types of disorder. And it should be, when someone says, I am having anxiety, it should be clinically assessed, clinically diagnosed by professional, of course, it could be clinical psychologist or psychiatrist, okay, to be able to tell that, okay, this person having this, because anxiety disorder, there are more branches under it, like GAD, general anxiety disorder, social anxiety, there are some of the symptoms. Okay. So, it's a best to describe when we explain about the emotions of fear, worry, anxious, apprehension, nervous. There's a lot of vocabulary. It's a best to use those terms in describing fear emotion instead of anxiety, because we want to apply the differences between parasitic anxiety, which leading to abnormality, so there just now, and with the fear, the ongoing feeling of worry and fear. And what's making it different, another one is anxiety is persistent. For like 6 months, non-stop, 6 months and more, the feeling or the apprehensions, the feelings of acute intense stress, or for example, heart palpitation, it continues over that period of time, non-stop, without triggering. That's become a problem. So that's, I hope, from this explanation, we can clearly see fear is something related to immediate danger that is there in front of us. While anxiety refers to something that in future is not yet happening. But I will, from time to time, I use the term anxious. I would rather use anxious than anxiety, because anxiety more on the disorder part. It's actually referring to the same thing. Some anxious is more about thinking about what might happen, what if I fainted inside the ground, like that. So maybe I can ask, you're going to ask me.
I just want to ask, when you said about anxiety just now, is it simply when we are having overthinking, so it relates to the anxiety?
Because anxiety, they have like a few symptoms. In order to be able to diagnose what a person having anxiety, they need to meet certain proximity, certain times. So, for example, really having overthinking or certain of anxious to a certain situation doesn't mean you are having anxiety. Probably you're having adjustment problem or fear, apprehension on that particular thing. But anxiety is more than that. It involves psychopathology on your brain. There's a chemical imbalance in your brain. It requires someone to take medication in order to function well. As it disrupts one's daily functioning. And go to work. Usually, we can see that once you meet the professional and undergo the diagnosis, we can detect that.
That's such a clear explanation. So we proceed with Jane.
Assalamualaikum. Hi everybody. I just want to share. I think Mrs. Izzati have a clear explanation about the about anxiety and also fear. It is a continuum, which it can start from fear and it start develop and to the anxiety level. So nowadays, what we are worried of for the students who are doing SPM last year, SPM, most of them, all of them, they have to go to the classes online. So when they come to campus, to the college, some of them will have online classes for the first semester. It's still working for them. But after one semester, they need to come to the classes physically. So that is where the problem starts. Because when I met with the students, they complain, they have this anxiety. So I asked the student, what was the thing that makes you fear? So they said that I feel uncomfortable to see the lecturers physically. I feel uncomfortable. And am I going to be judged? So from what is Izzati explanation just now, we have to help the students, our students, the teenagers, to understand the difference of fear and anxiety. So I would like to add up a bit, a few tips so that you can help our younger students to understand either they are really having anxiety or just fear. So for fear, we have, or maybe for ourselves, we can self-monitor ourselves. We, we will have rapid heartbeat, shortness of breath, sweating, trembling, chills, dry mouth, and nausea. And for anxiety, we have broader symptoms. Plus, with the symptoms that I explained just now, we have also feeling nervous, restless. You just cannot help it. It keep on coming and coming until to the sleeping disturbances, having signs of doom. Habislah, lepas tu, habislah. The thing's not there yet, but habislah. I don't know what will happen next. So increased shortness of breath, yeah, sweating, dizziness. Some of the students might have this ear ringing, trouble concentrating, trouble in sleeping, and also gastrointestinal distress, chilling, or short bowel movement, slow bowel movement, having the urge to avoid things that trigger anxiety. So normally our teenagers, if possible, they have presentation, they try to delay, they try to push their friends to do the presentation. But selalunya kalau dekat campus, lecturer akan kata mana boleh kan, everybody have to present so that the lecturer can assess either the students can communicate or not. So for the campuses, remember, it will be helpful if you can refer your students, that shows significant fear, macam nampak takut sangat, nervous. One of the way to refer them to the counselor, locally or to outside counselor, to do the assessment of social anxiety. So this G generation, they might have this social anxiety due to their distance with people physically. It's very common when nowadays the parents, the students, the teenagers, they spend a lot of their time with the handphone. They spend a lot of time socializing through Twitter, Instagram, so not talking eye to eye, heart to heart with people. So that's why what we can help our students to identify either it is just fear, anxious, or anxiety. So if our audiences want to check, am I have reached to that anxiety, we can do the DASS online assessment. Yeah, it's depression, anxiety, and stress assessment. That is just to assess, yeah, just to pick up the symptoms. But do not diagnose yourself yet. The diagnosis will be held by the psychiatrist. That is to see how you need further professional help or not. If it is mild and moderate, it's okay. Alright? So I pass it back to our engineer.
Okay, so that is such a very clear explanation from Ms. Izzati and also Madam K, which means that is, I'm pretty sure everyone of us are clear regarding the difference between the anxiety and also fear. So move on with the next question. So So I think most of people have a thought that anxiety is a bad behavior, especially among our student MNP. All of us here, including me, also thought that anxiety is such a bad behavior. But this mindset grows in their mind and into the fear and worry for the future. So can you give an explanation regarding this perspective? Is it anxiety is always bad behavior? So first, Izzati first.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Ashiki, for the question. So the question is whether anxiety is always bad. Okay. So like I shared before, anxiety preparing us for potential threats. It prepares us for possible danger in future. So the thing is not yet happened, but because of we having that kind of capabilities to assess or to predict, or this situation might giving a problem to me or not. So we have some side of thinking and possible backup plan, for example. So for me, if you ask me personally, I think it's not always bad. In that sense, if we see that perspective, we need that in order to prepare us for any potential threat. And I do actually really understand the context of students. This is based on my personal observation with my clients. Consists of young adults and adolescents. Actually, in this age, it is a critical age where we see the psychological development of adolescent and young adult. This group of students actually having the phase of transition period from being living with family members. Okay, I need to pursue my dream, so now I need to learn to be independent of myself. Previously, if we have problem with money, simply can ask mom. Every day going to school, they will provide pocket money, buying food at the canteen, right? But later, when they pursue their study into higher education institution, they'll be receiving allowance or scholarship or loan, and that amount of money they need to properly manage by themselves. So this phase of adaptation from one stage of development to another is actually understandable why students usually experience this kind of symptoms of worry, anxious for the future, fear about what might happen, because they are venturing into unknown, into the stage of the experience that they haven't go through that yet. For example, if, this is my personal experience in UiTM. We can see the patterns of the client. So if let's say part 1 student or part 2, the first year student, they will be having anxious and worried when they think about campus life. Am I able to adapt my life in this stage? Am I going to survive? Am I able to make friends? That kind of worry. But when they reach to final year, 8th semester, 7th semester, graduating student, they will come back to me with no longer with that issue, but another issue means when if after I graduated, I can't find any job placement, internship placement even. Last time during COVID, they find very difficult for a company to accept the application. So this kind of anxious and worry is normal for this age group because they are venturing into the unknown. Feel like honestly, like I suddenly remember literally unknown, the music from the concert. I feel like what was just thing here. But that's the situation. It is understandable that why this age group always feel that I'm having that kind of symptoms. But to say that it's always bad, I think in a moderate amount or little action really helping us moving forward. We wouldn't perform well in our examination if we didn't feel anxious and worried about taking the exam the day before that, right? But like again, in our life, whatever it is, when it's excessive, when it's an excessive thing, then the problem will come. For example, our body needs glucose and sugar, for example, glucose and sugar. But if we consume it in excessive amount, then become diabetic. Same goes to our psychological and emotional state. If we are having anxious, worried, it helps us to moving forward. But excessive amount of it will constrain us from being able to function well. And if I can share with you guys today, I still can remember during my study time, I was having like very negative thinking of what if I couldn't, during that time my foundation study was sponsored by KPT. So I was thinking, what if when I'm pursuing my degree, I'm going to burden my parents again? What if I didn't get my scholarship? So because of that anxious and worried about my life of burdening my parents, I take that as some sense of motivation to score better for each semester. My goal is at least I secure my degrees. So in order to score that, I put my anxious worry about not getting any scholarship as a source of motivation. So when we talk about this kind of emotion, it's not necessarily bad because it somehow trains our energy to moving forward. It's become a motivation. If we see the what's the name of the statue? Like they have like a graph. Human actually can function at the optimal level if they got enough amount of anxious or fear or anxiety. For example, if we don't feel that anxious and worried, tomorrow exam, no anxious feeling, no anxiety feeling, you will probably go to sleep. Why right? Exam, what is there? Whatever. I don't study. It's gonna sleep. I don't feel the importance of studying even. But because of the optimal amount, it making us to okay, even heart palpitation or even heartbeat raising. Okay, I have another 20 chapters. I haven't read 20 chapters. You put whatever it is burning the midnight oil just to finish and complete all those chapters because of the existence of that feeling and emotion. But if it's too much, the curve is gonna downhill. For example, too much anxiety making you have difficulty to concentrate. You read everything, it's like going inside your right ear and then moving outside your left ear. It's like masuk telinga kanan, keluar telinga kiri kind of peribahasa kan. That's how I feel. If it's in optimal, moderate amount, then anxiety will be very good and very beneficial for us. But if it's too much, then it will the performance will decline. And if it's not even okay, of course, the performance also will be affected. So maybe Mandy want to add some more?
Okay. I just want to share with you my experience in learning NLP. I am a certified NLP trainer as mentioned by our MCQ. So actually, for humans, we have motivations to do things, and one of them is moving towards and moving away. How to understand this? Normally, for people, you can even check that for our audience, you can even check. What is your kind of motivation? Are you a kind of person who wants to achieve something, or are you a kind of person who wants to do the thing in order to avoid some problems, disturbances later? So when we ask, why do you work? So while we stay working in this college, I have a good salary. So I want to enhance my career. So this is a kind of person with moving towards motivation. So for the person I need to work, I have so many debts to pay. Ada banyak hutang nak kena bayar, kereta, bla 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 bla. So this is a kind of person is moving away from problem. So why did I need to explain you this? Because people who are a kind of moving away from problem will have the tendency to have more fear than another person. Yeah. So the person is moving away kind of motivation, they will have a higher fear. They might have the tendency to have this anxiety. So back to the question, is anxiety healthy? My opinion will be anxiety is not healthy. Seriously, because it is when you have anxiety, you might have lose control of yourself. You cannot understand the bodily reaction. what is happening. So that is the alarm that you need to go for the psychology hub. So even now we are approaching in the VUCA world where anything, almost anything is uncertain. So we need to understand that this anxiety, the people who suffers with anxiety, they will have a difficult time in this new era because there are lots of questions need to be asked them, and yet they don't know how am I going to act, how am I going to decide what is going to happen next. So that's why we need to understand a bit about anxiety and depression. Okay, that's sikit daripada tajuk. So if I can use this mind as me, this is a person, or you can see me, this person. If you are worried too much, disturbed too much by our past experiences at my back, so the person will have the possibilities of having depression because you are tied too much with your past. But if the person worries too much for the things that haven't come yet, so this person will have the possibilities of having so many fears and resulting in a long time of period might have the possibilities of anxiety. So as I said before, do not self-diagnose, check properly. If you have a lot of symptoms that I said just now, it is not healthy to have anxiety. But if you happen to be, you have diagnosed yourself and then, oh, I have this anxiety, it's okay, it is curable. And by research, it is more easier to help the person with anxiety rather than person with depression. The most important thing is to identify what is my fear, what I'm doing now, what I'm thinking now. Is there things happen yet? No, it is not. So what you can do is to help yourself or the others who have fear and anxiety, ask them to list down the things that they feel, benda yang dia takutkan. So what will be the result yang dia takut sangat? Most probably, it is because of their past experience. They has been ashamed, humiliated, disregard in their past that make them afraid to face the future.
So what we can see that actually anxiety is not always a bad behavior, but it also have the good side of it, whereby like Izzati said just now, it can be a source of motivation to all of us, and also what Ms. Madam T said just now, that anxiety is very unhealthy also if we can't control it well. So we move to the next question, the third point, that anyone that having this fear is mentally stuck. So what should they do to come out from this uncomfortable zone, and will share with all of us how they can overcome the fear together with tips and techniques that can be used for students to cope well with it. So I pass that first.
Right, thank you. So there are times where fears become unhelpful. We is stuck in a circle where people say, I love to read the analogy of rat or hamster running inside the circle. No? When human, if rat even keep running for a long run at the same point of time, we will end up lose hope. We feel tired, no? We feel made up on our life. This is happen when someone's been trapped inside the fear trap. I'm gonna share with you guys about the trap after this. I think it is important to clearly understand what is actually happening in our internal experience first before I be able to share tips, technique, cope with it. So if you can see on the screen chat, so when we talk about the threat of fear, it will involve the connection between our thoughts, our cognition, our emotion, our feeling, our physiological response, the action we take, and the effect on it. So, for example, if we have anxious or worried about something, it will evoke this pattern of thoughts. First, either we overestimate the problem, we catastrophize, we call it psychology. We overestimate the threat, or either we underestimate the ability for us to cope. So these two type of thinking pattern, because we have that particular situation, we think that I am not good enough to face this. So this kind of thinking pattern, underestimations of the way to cope, it will lead to the feeling of worry, anxious, fear. Okay, and like I shared earlier, when involve the emotions of fear or worry, it will involve the activations of our parasympathetic nervous system just now. So our heart rate start to increase, we feel like nausea, butterfly in the stomach. Our attention right now at that moment will focus on the problem rather than because we want to face the danger, possible danger. So which usually the natural behavioral urge of fear is actually to avoid, to escape. Because, for example, in the case of driving a car and then there's a falling tree in front of us, we want to save ourselves, so we escape. So usually, fear will be associated with avoidance. Once we avoid, we manage to escape from the problem. It will give to us a short-term relief. We feel grateful, we feel settled and survive from falling tree, for example. But if it's real threat, it's a good. It gives you like instant relief. But if it's in the long term, it will somehow condition or train our thoughts and mind that we are actually unable to cope with it. I give you one example. Okay, this is a case of a student worried about attending college, and have been missing class for a few times. So when we discover this client situation, we assess the thoughts, the thinking pattern first. So what makes it difficult for you to attend class? You have been missing your class for like 5 times and you are unable to sit down an exam because of your attendance problem. So when we explore that, it probably because maybe he have this kind of thought, I will just polish myself. I'm just gonna look down and stupid when I go to the class. So that kind of thought. Because underestimate the ability to cope and overestimation on the threat. So what happened after that? It will make him feel fear. That's why the behavior is to escape. He didn't attend absent class. So in the immediate relief, every time he managed to escape that particular lecturer's class, he feel relief. Okay, I survived. My name is not being picked up, present on this particular day. But what happened in the long run? Every time he remembered that this week I have 2 class with this lecturer, the emotion is getting intense. Because the last time, okay, I managed to escape the classes. But every time he think about that trigger, that situation, it will give some of uneasiness. This is how actually when they feel uneasiness, the thoughts coming, okay, I'm definitely cannot score this class. Whatever happened, I'm just gonna repeat the paper and taking the subject the other lecturer, for example. So the circle of fear turning out to be frustration. So he started to feel frustrated. Why this lecturer can treat the student well but not me? I am not good enough. So all these kind of thoughts leading to frustration, and the circle continues from fear, frustration, and then you reach the behavior escape. Whenever they feel unpleasant, escape, we avoid. Then leading to sadness and prolonged problem. So it doesn't solve the issues. So what to do? For me, to explain about this trap is important. If we know what actually happened in our mind, in our body, it will be easier for us to do some intervention. So if I ask Ms. Ashiki, from these 3 components, the thoughts, the feelings, the behavior, what do you think we can do in order to break this vicious cycle? In order to stop from someone from keep running on the same circle, which part actually we can start to modify on? What do you think?
The first one, thoughts.
The thoughts, okay. So the thoughts, there's no right or wrong actually, but along with this is on CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. When those diagnosed with anxiety disorder, psychotherapists will use these types of therapy. Thoughts is one of the ways to cope it, but the very easiest way to break up the cycle is by touching on the behavior part. If you can see from this cycle, the problem is not the thoughts. The problem is the avoidance of not attending to the class. What if he just have this thought of, I am not good enough, but still go to class. He still can learn something, and gradually from that he know, oh, I'm not really stupid actually, I can still grasp the information in the class. The problem is on the behavior part. So what actually I do in the session with the client, I actually take one piece of paper. So you guys can use this along for, this is one of the first technique. So taking a paper, draw a big circle, okay, and list down your comfort zone. For example, you feel comfortable going to sleep instead of doing my assignment. Every time I'm doing my FYP, I feel anxious, they say. So what the comfort zone is, they open TikTok video and then going to sleep. So that is the comfort zone. Okay. And then draw another circle and write the thing that you terrified the most. For example, those in doing FYP, the most terrified is not being able to GOD grade on time. So maybe the terrified part is I will fail, let's say, or unable to submit my FYP on time. Okay, so the intervention start by focusing on the uncomfortable yet still can manage. Okay, I give you one example. Okay, this is the case where the student having a problem to present their project in front of huge audience of people. So the terrified feeling is feel scared, being judged, when talking in front of 1,000 people, for example, in front of them. So the intervention will start with something that little still uncomfortable but manageable. So what we do is that we ask the client to list down, okay, if you feel scared, present inside of the maths lecture class consists of 100 students in one class, what if we start with the smallest little things? This is what we call gradual exposure. We want to desensitize our brain that what we fear is not really bad everything. So what we do is that instead of immediately present your project on 100 people, let's start with 8 to 10 people of 8 to 10 group of people consist of your friend. This is the first experiment we do together. So he picked 8 to 10 people and then start presenting the slide project. Then I ask him to reassess the feeling. So after you doing that with your friend, 8 to 10 people, what do you feel? So we evaluate. Okay. So once he ready, he get that feedback from the friends, how to improve. We do the second experiment to modify the behavior. So now ask the friend to bring another stranger, 2 friends. So all that 8 to 10 friends will bring along another 2 friends. So now the group of people increase. So when the group of people increase, he present again the idea and taking the feedback from this stranger and friend, and we assess again your feelings. Okay, after doing this second time, what do you think? Right now, it's not only involve your friends, it involves strangers as well. Okay, and then he started to feel encouragement. Oh, it's not really bad as I'm thinking. So from that, when he prepared for another experiment, we increase the number from little by little, uncomfortable but manageable, until we be able to present inside mass audience. Okay, this is one of the intervention. Okay, other than touching on the behavior, with that circle technique, we can also use COP method. Okay, COP method is first you need to check the fact whether if I avoid doing this problem, because fear naturally will associated with escape or avoidance. So if I avoid, in the case of falling tree just now, I avoid driving towards the tree, I'm going to survive. So it's a good. We need to assess whether if I'm doing avoidance or escapism, does it really helpful? So if not, go to O, opposite action. Do the other way around. It could be emotions of fear, sadness, any type of emotion. Once you assess when I'm trying to avoid that particular things, and it will lead to another bigger problem, then you need to do opposite action. So once you decide to do opposite action, focus on solving the problem. So for example, I give you one example of fear, worry, and anxious. The situation where a student experience low carry marks, if facing an examination. Low carry marks, and at the same time, he need to score for his final in order to pass the semester. So the fact during that time, okay, what he or she can do is first assess the fact. Okay, I haven't finished covering the topic or the chapter yet. I'm too anxious and nervous to open the book. Hence I just sleep. So this is we can assess all this avoidance. I can just sleep. There's no hope. There is no hope. My carry mark is low. I don't even understand what I learned inside the class. It should be better if I'm not attending the exam. There's no hope. This client start in the fear trap. Okay, and then feel like want to give up. Okay, so once you assess, check the fact, oh, this is really unhealthy. You avoid, you are going to sleep, so do opposite action. So instead of avoid, withdraw from the stressful situation, instead of going to sleep, tomorrow is exam, your carry mark is low. Instead of going to sleep, can I do? So this is where they need to face the fear, do what you're afraid of. So problem solving, so in this session, we discuss together with clients. So probably what types of action you think you can do. So maybe I have no much time. I'm just going to ask my lecturer which topic will definitely come out. So I'm just going to focus on that topic. Or mentoring with the friends. Or open YouTube channel, YouTube video for Twitter video. So this kind of intervention plan also can be done. Other than drawing a circle, use the OP method. Okay. Finally, you also can use that one is the behavior part. To control our emotion, if you remember, whenever we feel fear, it will activate our parasympathetic nervous system, right? So we can use this relaxation technique. We call it as cue control relaxation technique. So what you can do when we breathing, okay, we want to, if you remember, fear is alarm, sending alarm signal that something bad is happening or something bad might happen. So we send a cue to our brain to shut down the alarm. Hey, relax. So pick up one word, keyword. You can use terms like relax, peace, or tenang. So if you tarik nafas, you send the information, relax. You say to your brain, you say to your mind, relax, tenang. Everything is fine. That kind of terms you use inside your brain, okay? And then you can sit down comfortably, okay? Inhale slowly. Make sure your breathing is deep and regular so that enough number of oxygen coming through your brain. Okay? So repeat this action for like few times until you can feel easiness instead of muscle tension. And when I said about parasympathetic state, usually we will associate with heightened numbers of energy inside our body. So doing exercise can also help you to cope well because when you exercise, you are releasing the energy out. You know, and it induces a sense of hormone, we call it endorphin, making you feel good. So back to the question of Izzati just now, what tips or technique can be done? First, you can use the circle technique just now. List down the uncomfortable but manageable action, and then you can use the OP method, the cue control relaxation technique. You do some breathing exercise. At the same time, sending signal, keyword like relax, tenang, everything is fine, sabar, long week Ramadan Raya kan, someone sabar, keep control, relaxation. I've learned bahasa Islam. Use that technique, please. So after you cool control, you also can do some exercise. Maybe 2 or 3 rounds will be enough. That's one of the approach. Maybe Madam K can add some more about the technique.
Thank you, Izzati. I would like to stand. Excuse me, I would like to stand. Why am I standing? Because I would like to invite our friends here and for the audiences, as per explained by Izzati, I would like to demonstrate and I would like to invite you to feel the experience. Yeah? So, cuba fikirkan, I would like to use bahasa Malaysia ya, so that our audience yang through Facebook boleh lebih faham lebih mudah, right? Okay. Cuba fikirkan satu perkara yang you rasa takut. Suami marah ke, bos marah ke, any situation yang selalu trigger you rasa takut. Fikirkan satu perkara ni. So that kalau kita berjaya buat ni dan boleh dapat benefit terus kan? Fikirkan ni. Ada tak benda tu, as explain by Izzati tadi, benda tu controllable or not controllable? Boleh control ataupun tak boleh control? Controllable. Tulis lagi bagus. You can write even better. Because you can distinguish. Kadang-kadang macam banyak benda sangat kan, clouding here and there, sampai rasa tulis sama. So, suddenly tak boleh nak fikir apa sangat kan? So, rather than clouding your minds, write it down. Tuliskan. Okay, aku risau pasal bos, aku risau pasal anak kerja, aku risau pasal ni, bla 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 bla. Okay, lepas tu letak one column. Which one is controllable? Okay, tulis pula ada sheet of paper. Ini controllable. This is controllable. This is not controllable. So we focus on things that we can control. And the most important, the most easiest thing to control is ourselves, of course. Kan? Kita boleh senang control diri kita sendiri. So, and the most easiest and weakest thing to control is our breathing, pernafasan. So, how we can help ourselves quickly during fear, anxious, or anxiety is using a breathing, and we imitate baby breathing. How baby breathe? Macam mana baby bernafas? Dia gunakan perut dia. So kalau nanti ada baby, kita tengok balik. Baby normally bila dia bernafas, perut dia akan melengkung. Kita bernafas nampak perut sebab kita buncit kan? Dah umur dah nampak kan? Tak apa dah nampak perut, saya pun tak pernah explain today. So let's do this small technique sama-sama so that you can benefit. Lepas tu nanti dekat rumah kita ajar anak kita juga. Sebab yang saya perhatikan sekarang ni, anak-anak remaja ramai ada anxiety tapi dia takut nak beritahu dekat mak bapak dia. Sebab apa? Mak bapak dia garang dan perfectionist. Hasil daripada pengalaman saya jadi kaunselor, anak-anak selalunya yang ada anxiety ni bila saya tanya selalunya sama ada mak atau ayah ada garang, susah nak bawa bincang. Mak atau ayah ada letak high standard, high expectation pada dia. Mak, degree okay, you sepatutnya ada master, lebih baik dari mak. Perkara ini contributes to our teenagers. So let us learn a bit about breathing. Senang saja, nanti ada orang yang lain yang pernah belajar, tapi saya share balik untuk refresher. Paling penting kita ambil tangan, satu letak dekat perut, satu tangan kita letak dekat dada. Bila kita letak tangan dekat dada, kita tahu, kita boleh bezakan, we can difference. Okay? So bila kita tarik nafas, tangan ni letak dekat atas pusat lah, senang kan? Bila kita tarik nafas, inhale, we push our belly in front. Tolak belly, ya? Kita tolak perut kita yang comel ni ke depan. Okay? Just inhale dan paling baik sekali kita tegakkan badan. So that diaphragm kita tak terganggu. Just inhale and push our belly. Tahan sekejap. 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. And exhale. Bayangkan macam depan kita ada satu benang, depan tu ada buku yang comel depan tu. So bila kita exhale, kita try to terbangkan buku tu ke depan, tolak di sini. So kita akan gently hembus dia depan. So nanti dia datang balik, tak apa, dia lagi. Okay, tahan. Exhale. Kenapa kita kena tahan nafas tu? Supaya kita paksa oksigen tu pump ke otak. So bila oksigen lebih pump ke otak, masa tu lah baru otak dapat cukup oksigen, barulah kita boleh berfikir dengan baik. So that's why kalau patient yang masuk ke hospital pergi daripada polis ke mana, pergi dekat emergency ward, doktor check tengok tak ada simptom biological, doktor suspect dia mungkin ada anxiety, panic attack, which one part of anxiety juga. Doktor punya remedy sangat mudah. Doktor akan ambil paper bag macam kita dapat dekat McDonald's ke apa, paper bag tu doktor akan suruh dia inhale and exhale guna paper bag yang sama. Nafas tak tu sebab orang yang ada anxiety dan dia ada panic attack, oksigen terlalu banyak. So that's why doktor akan letak dia inhale and exhale supaya nak balancekan balik dia punya CO2 dalam otak dia, carbon dioxide. Itu kalau misal kata perempuan semua jumpa seperti ada suddenly ada panic attack, itu boleh buat immediate action. Alright, tapi sebetulnya ini kawan-kawan dia dulu lah, ada penyakit-penyakit lain tak ada. Okay. Alright, inhale and exhale. So lagi satu yang saya belajar pada saya punya guru saya lah, Tuan Fahmi Zairi, kita buat climbing, cara pernafasan climbing, iaitu kita bernafas laju. Lepas tu baru kita buat teknik breathing. Jom kita buat sama-sama. Cara ini semudah, macam bila kita ada hidungnya, kita bernafas laju tau. Macam bila kita bernafas, perut ni kita tolak ke depan. So that's why penting kita letak sini supaya kita tahu position dia. So kita tarik nafas laju-laju macam ni. Buat sama-sama. Dalam 10 kali. 1, bila tarik nafas tu, perut kita ke depan ya. 1, 2, 3. Nafas dalam. Tahan sekejap. Lepas menahan. Kalau tuan-tuan, kawan-kawan kat sini dengan online tengok buat sama-sama, nanti dia akan rasa ada aliran darah mengalir yang lebih laju. That is a good sign. Dan ada orang yang nervous, ada anxious, dia tu anxiety ataupun ada anxiety ataupun ada panic attack, dia akan perasan dia punya tangan dia berpeluh. Dia tak cukup oksigen. So what we can do, immediate action adalah buat shaking activities. Perasan tak kalau orang yang nervous dia akan kata takutlah nanti ada sensation kan. So sebenarnya naturally body dia bertindak semua dia jadi untuk nak buang dia punya anxious tu. So kalau nampak sebenarnya nervous nak buat exercise tu semua, kita galakkan atau anak kita nak pergi exam, kita buat je, takut is okay. So shake off your fear. Tak apa, buat je. So kalau nak macam exam kan, okey buat sikit macam aktiviti senaman sambil shake dia body pun okey sebenarnya untuk bantu student punya release dia punya nervous system. So macam tadi saya beritahu first kita list down benda yang kita takut dan benda yang kita takutkan, controllable or not controllable. Kalau banyak sangat yang not controllable, then we come back to ourselves. We help ourselves to do the deep breathing. Mula-mula climbing dan kita bernafas laju supaya nak masuk, lepas tu kita akan tenang. It's okay, macam tadi Cik Zati cakap it's okay. Dan boleh kita gunakan you are in control, you are in total control, you are in control of your breathing. When you are in control of your breathing, you can control yourself, compose yourself, and think clearly. You can know the solution better. So macam tu, kita help the student and help ourselves. So itu sedikit yang model saya, semoga dapat membantu. Silakan balik pada MC.
So I think that's all for our today's session, whereby we have learned a lot of things in this session. The last one we do it practically and how to do it so that we can practice in the future if you are having this anxiety also. Okay. So maybe I open questions for the audience here. Anyone have any question to ask to our guest today? Anyone? Okay, so Ms. Nita will ask questions.
Hi, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. So it is a very interesting topic as also reflects to everybody's life. So just a few questions. Example, for my personal experience, I started to have that anxiety already based on my medical examination. So the first thing is that how this anxiety can affect mental health and also our well-being. And the next one, does anxiety can also lead to being depressed? And the third one, especially for the students, how can they overcome anxiety in a very simple method? Thank you.
So thank you for the question. How saya cuba pendekkan kan? So macam ni, anxiety akan menyebabkan kita rasa kesihatan mental kita terganggu apabila kita rasa kecewa, kita tak boleh kontrol benda tu. Masih kena makan ubat ni sampai bila? So that's how anxiety itself, kalau makan ubat saja tak cukup. Kena ada support from counselling. Kena ada support from immediate. Kalau ikut kajian, orang yang dapat support from families, understanding, peers dan sebagainya akan lebih cepat baik. Dan anxiety, macam saya beritahu tadi, and depression, dia anxiety lebih mudah baik berbanding depression. Kalau dia lambat, dia tak dapat keluar daripada anxiety dia pada masa yang lama, if the person suffers anxiety for a long time, he or she might develop depression because of frustration of himself of dia. Lagi satu, bila seseorang tu ada anxiety yang terlalu lama, as said by Mr. Izzati tadi, kita ada chemical imbalances in our brain, hormon yang berjejas. So that's why kena ada ubat-ubatan untuk bantu intervene. Kalau misalnya seseorang tu ada juga yang cepat baik daripada anxiety, dengan cara ubah dia punya lifestyle, walking a certain distance, start like 3,000 dulu, 4,000, 5,000, up to 10,000 and morning walk. And another methods that we can use diri kita sendiri. Sekarang ni kita kerja dekat bandar, hardly kita jumpa pokok. So masa balik rumah, pergi dekat tanah rumah, harapnya ada dah tandas sekarang kalau ada dekat situ, tanggalkan kasut, forget everything, do the grounding. We just kita buka kasut kita dan sebagainya. I'm a kind of kinesthetic, so I like to move, ya. So buka kasut apa semua, kita just pijak ukur pada kita dengan tanah first. So masa kita tarik, buat nafasan dalam macam tadi, niatkan. Kalau yang beragama Islam, kalau beragama lain pun tak apa. Doa pada Tuhan supaya energi negatif, penat, rasa sedih, rasa risau semua terserap balik ke dalam ke bumi. Kita ni asal daripada tanah, so dekat situ kita balikkan semula. Dan kita always think conscious, and orang yang anxiety dia mudah conscious. Dia mudah risau, dia banyak benda. So, bagusnya orang yang anxiety, dia boleh belajar mindfulness, being mindful. So, instead of macam balik je, dia tarik nafas, dia boleh sedap. Oh, so nafas tu, nafas banyak rasa. Maka hari tu, lepas sikit. Okey, buka pernafasan tu, lepas itu, kita dekat sini, okey, aku dah balik kerja. Sekarang ni aku nak tinggalkan harga dia dekat pejabat. Aku tak nak bawa balik laptop dekat pejabat. Dan it is helpful sebenarnya kalau satu hari kita try to discipline ourselves, masih bukan masa tidur, balik rumah, flight mode telefon. Letak dekat status tu, no communication regarding work after blah 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 time. Letak dekat our status of WhatsApp. So kalau orang tak faham lagi kan, dia nak cuba nak WhatsApp kita, dia tengok tu. Dia tengok WhatsApp, dia tengok tu kan. Okay, madam ni tak boleh kacau after certain hours. Mula-mula start buat dapat half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour. Buat pagi, kita start bangun sampai sampai subuh lebih tu kita sabar dulu, tak apa. We have to value our time. People may not value us. So we value ourselves. Kita letak limit tu person untuk ganggu hidup kita dan hidup kita sendiri. And that's for myself, hari yang penat apa semua, saya tak terus balik rumah. Saya berhenti kat mamak sekejap, dia berhenti tarik layan sekejap. Tak bersalah pun, tak bersa pun. Just to chill down, a bit relax. Balik rumah, even better. Dan baby kan, I have give myself some time. So sebenarnya macam soalan tadi, it can happen comorbid. Maksudnya dia boleh berlaku serentak. Kalau dia punya past trauma sangat buruk, ataupun dia tak dapat professional or proper help. Ada professional help tapi tak proper, tak cukup. Family support kurang. So boleh berlaku. Tapi insya-Allah try different methods. Bukan modern, alternative methods also works. Dan yang paling penting, always be aware of your condition. Rasa tak okey je, go for help. Itulah tempat saya. Terima kasih.
Okay, so such a very clear explanation from Madam K. So I think that's all for our session today. It was a great sharing and wonderful session having you here, Ms. Izzati, and also Madam K. And we are really appreciative your time and commitment to be with us today. So until we meet again, thank you once again and all of you of your time today.